Alright, so and now as we slowly begin approaching the end of tonight's live stream, let's move into the editorial. And after tonight's conversations about regret, growth, music, aging, the past, and emotional maturity, I think there's something very important modern people increasingly struggle with. That is, how to remember the past without becoming trapped inside it. Because modern culture often swings between two extremes, either total denial of the past or permanent emotional imprisonment inside it. And psychologically, neither extreme is healthy. One thing that changed enormously compared to the 80s and 90s is that modern life now creates permanent memory through old posts, old photos, old messages, old versions of ourselves permanently archived online. And human beings historically were not psychologically designed to constantly revisit every previous version of themselves. In older decades, many memories simply faded naturally. Life moved forward more physically. But now people can reopen entire emotional chapters instantly. And sometimes that becomes psychologically overwhelming. So, this is where many people become confused because reflection, I mean, talking about the difference between reflection and rumination, right? Because reflection and rumination are not the same things. Reflection says, what can I learn from this? While rumination says, replay replay the pain again and again and again. And many people today unconsciously remain emotionally trapped in loops. Old regrets, old heartbreaks, old mistakes, old identities, and they stop emotionally participating in the present moment. So, one thing I think older decades often did better emotionally was allowing people to reinvent themselves as a person, not what they do for work only. People moved cities, changed jobs, started over, disappeared for a while, and rebuilt socially. There was more psychological distance between life chapters. But modern digital culture sometimes makes people feel permanently attached to every previous version of themselves. And that can become emotionally exhausting. And that's one reason I keep insisting that positive nostalgia or conscious nostalgia is not about living in the past. It's about recovering useful emotional wisdom from the past without abandoning the present. Because honestly, there are valuable things many people miss from older decades, like slower rhythm, more human interaction, more mystery, less algorithmic overstimulation, more patience, more emotional presence. But that does not mean life ended after the 80s and 90s. Sometimes nostalgia becomes unhealthy when people stop imagining future experiences. And one of the saddest psychological states adults can fall into is emotional finality. The feeling that that was life. My best moments are over. Nothing meaningful will happen anymore. And many adults quietly begin thinking this much earlier than people realize. But psychologically, human beings continue evolving throughout life through new friendships, new projects, new passions, new music, new places, and new meanings. And sometimes people accidentally stop participating in life before life is actually finished with them. So, thinking about what maturity actually is, I think real maturity is not becoming emotionally numb, it's becoming more aware. Aware that people are fragile, that time moves fast, that mistakes matter, that kindness matters, and all moments matter. And that awareness can either make somebody bitter or gentler. So I think the healthiest older people often become gentler. Not because life was easy, but because experience softened certain illusions. And maybe that's one reason so many people still emotionally reconnect with the 80s and 90s music. Because many songs from those decades allowed reflection, longing, vulnerability, hope, regret, and emotional sincerity, but without immediately turning everything into irony, mockery, or outrage. And modern people still deeply need spaces where emotions can simply exist honestly. And maybe that's one small thing we're trying to preserve here together through this show. Alright, everyone, so that's been tonight's editorial. And we begin to wrap up our whole live stream back to the present. I think now you're starting to get the idea of why the name. The whole live stream is a tool to come back to the present in a better way, to deal with whatever we are going through. So thank you for spending part of your night or day here with me, reflecting about these topics and remembering the best songs from the 80s and 90s. So if tonight's show helped you slow down mentally or reflect a little or feel less overwhelmed or simply reconnect emotionally with music and memories in a healthier way, then make sure to subscribe to RetroLovers Radio channel and activate the notifications bell so you never miss any live stream or new episode of the podcast.